I've ever been quiet in my, oops. That was the longest I've been quiet my whole life, probably since I was born. Welcome everybody on this lovely Saturday, wherever you're uh, zooming in from. We appreciate you. We wanted to stay a little longer to get started because we had over 100 people sign up for this Zoom today, so they might just be popping on at different points. Um, I want to start off by introducing myself. My name is Cheri Honkala, and I use she, her pronouns. And I am one of the the founders of the Poor People's Army. I've been asked to do a quick overview. Uh, we began as an offshoot of the Kensington Welfare Rights Union, which was a welfare rights focused organization where we brought a group of primarily women together to work around welfare rights issues. And then that grew. That form of organization didn't meet the needs of that time. So we started the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign. And then that form of organization didn't fit the times. And we created what we call now the Poor People's Army. And we're a revolutionary organization. We consider ourselves to be pioneers in the struggle for human rights in this country. We've been doing it for, upwards of like 40 years now. We have an organizing model that's about organizing to take back the basic necessities of life. So that means taking back land, it means taking over houses, it means feeding people, um, participating in nonviolent civil disobedience, sit-ins around healthcare issues, you name it. But it's definitely not a model that believes that we're going to create some kind of utopia under capitalism. And sometimes people don't really understand us because we don't fit the traditional nonprofit model. We are uh, run by people that are on the front lines in the fight for survival. And we're linked with other people that understand that there's a growing new class of people in this country that understand that their alignment is best with us because there's a growing equality of misery in this country. And it doesn't matter if you're black or white or brown or purple, that an alignment with the bottom um, makes most sense now that people are all collectively fighting for and have been all collectively fighting for their survival. So we don't write foundation grants and then get started on trying to solve the various different problems. We have, we generally always have a deficit and don't have money. And organizationally and then personally, so it's quite challenging. Um, but we're constantly organizing to take back the basic necessities of life while we build leaders and generals in this process. So that's my brief introduction into who we are. The slides that you've been looking at are none other than Harvey Finkel's photographs, who has been photographing us for over 35 years. And with that, we will begin to get into the topic that we're all here to discuss today. and I'll turn it over to um, Comrade Galen Tyler, who will begin to talk about uh, what we've been dealing with before, during, and after the election. Galen.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Cheri. Good afternoon, everybody. Like Cheri said, my name is Galen Tyler. Also a founding member, of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign and the Poor People's Army. Um, yeah, we have people, coming to us, talking to us and asking us questions about, now that after the election, Trump is in office, we got to try to figure out how we're going to stop fascism from coming and stop Trump, and we just wanted to let people know how we've been seeing things and how we've been working. And for people that don't know too much about like some of the things that was going on in those slides, it when I was looking at them, it just kind of remind me, how we had early, looks and deep connect and relationships with the connection between state and corporations way back when, in relationship to a lot of our takeover houses, a lot of our taking over public land and stuff. So we was able to see some of the direct connection early on of what people think this to come. So fascism being in relationship to like the state and these corporations working together, we have been seeing like the ultra rich and the government, working together, for the longest. And so we've been dealing with it from things in relationship to like trying to adjust people to understand and feel, um you know like turn a blind eye to like the military spending, the endless wars, and the killing abroad, and using tons of resources, abroad, and not, making so many different cuts, and all the social services and stuff like that that's needed to take care of people in relationship to food, clothing, housing, healthcare, education, and livelihood are being cut, and they're like really filtered, from the majority of the people, into a few small select few. And so we've been working, from the standpoint that the real growth, that's going to come is some of the work that we already been doing in relationship to trying to figure out how we're going to connect with different people that have been doing the same type of work we've been doing already, before Trump got elected, and people that are going to continue to do the work after Trump, now that Trump's elected. And that's in relationship to trying to figure out how we're going to start strategically working together and strategizing, amongst each other, you know, and build real true relationships. It's good to connect, on these Zoom calls, but we want to move past that and move forward. And so, um, yeah, so the work that people have been doing, before, Trump got elected, we think that that's the same important work that people are going to have to be doing, after the election now and when he get in office, and making sure that we move beyond just talking about it and just having surface relationship, but trying to figure out how we're going to have deep rooted connection with each other. All right. So Cheri, you want?
Yeah. Um, so, how does our analysis differ? Um, there's a few things. I said it earlier, but we don't really think that it's possible for us to build a utopia under capitalism. So that's not where that isn't where we focus our work and our energy, because we don't think it's possible. Um, we uh, so we are very different than the nonprofit industrial complex. Um, uh, we're not one of those people. Several organizations in Philadelphia told me after the elections that they were just like crippled for a few days, not because Trump is just a horrible, rotten individual, but because they had a lot of money that they were counting on from the Democratic Party, and a lot of promises that once we had the first Black woman president, that they were going to get all these various different things for their nonprofit. And so now they had to like really shift their focus. Well, the blessing for us is we've never had any of that money, so we didn't have to scramble and figure out how to go forward, because that's just like everyday life. I'm literally talking like recovery, entire recovery programs, churches, other progressive organizations that I just can't say out loud, but I want to encourage people too. We're big people encouraging people to follow the money. This is not a lot to do with like rhetoric and your belief system and what you say. It's also, we need to follow the money and figure out who gets money, and that's where their alignments are, right? Or if their alignment isn't, at least you should be conscious of who it is that you're actually dealing with. So the other thing that we're beginning to see is the takeover of much of this stuff that's been coined mutual aid that we've been doing for decades, that the nonprofit industrial complex is trying to grab some of these terms and strategies and that kind of stuff and turn it into more of a social control thing. So that, like the surplus food being distributed by the political parties as opposed to, just organizations that care about keeping people alive kind of thing. So anyway, also, we don't go down the path of, fighting, putting all our eggs in the bucket and fighting for a guaranteed annual income, or adjusting to a lower standard of living. We truly are about system change, and we see our unity with poor and working people, not just in this country, but around the entire world. We give a damn about what's happening in the Sudan. We give a damn about what's happening in Haiti. We care about what's happening in Gaza, to what's been happening to the indigenous in this country for decades, you name it. And again, that's where we see our alignment. And again, I want to just stress this fact that there's this growing equality of misery that's beginning to develop, and we really want to strengthen those ties and those relationships in terms of figuring out how to keep each other alive, conscious, and how do we organize masses of people without resources going forward. And sometimes that's going to require looking at other parts of the world. And this whole question, I think we need to begin to ask, or continue to ask, is, we've seen a lot of people organize around these hot swells of crisis, of different people being elected throughout time, these ground swells, whether it was Bernie or whoever. And and then things just die for a lack of a second. And I think that what we saw happening this time is people just saying that they're done. They are absolutely done. Whether it's in the term of a protest vote, not going to the ballot box to vote, not wanting to be a part of the same old, anyway, so I'm going to divert off to someplace else, so I won't do that. But the other thing is that we have to continue to ask ourselves, what are we actually organizing for? What are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish? And here in the Poor People's Army, We know that this system has buried and killed all of the people that we love in this country and other parts of the world. And so we're interested in burying this system, not reforming it. It's dying. Capitalism is dying. And we would love to envision a different kind of world to live in and work on building that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Galen.
Yeah, and just on what Cheri was ending with, you know, yeah, with
Uh-oh. What Cheri was ending on, uh, we're already we want to encourage people to continue to have these kind of strategic conversations if they can and not disappear from Zoom like Galen. And we want to encourage people to participate in our Art of Organizing series. We also have monthly membership meetings. The next one is December 6th. And one of the ways that you can support us is by buying our merchandise and going to the Poor People's Press link. And we have shirts, we have books, we have Christmas cups or Hanukkah cups or whatever holiday that you celebrate. And everybody wants to have a cup of coffee in the morning and think about the Poor People's Army. So Galen, I tried to fill in while you were off. You're on mute now.
yo, I'm so sorry for that. That my mom kept calling in and wouldn't stop. And I hit the wrong button.
Well,
Where
that
did you?
we'll forgive you only from others.
Yes, yes. But what was it?
Um,
You fill in on me?
you were I don't know. You were saying, like Cheri said, ongoing strategic conversation, changes in the economy.
Oh
We've
yeah,
already
yeah.
been doing work. Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I was. I'm so sorry. I'm back. Yeah. Like the ongoing work that people have already was doing, in relationship to like, trying to think through like what are we organizing for, and so people are doing so much good, decent work on the ground in relationship to like, trying to keep people alive on a day-to-day basis and stuff. But we want to start being able to like constantly connect with each other and make sure we start having some strategic conversation so we can strategize about like what are we fighting for? Are we just going to keep, just fighting these incremental little changes or helping different individuals or stopping the gentrification in one neighborhood when they're going to do it in so many others? And so we have all these different activities that we got going on that people can be a part of. I don't know if Cheri already talked about them or
I
said
did.
anything. Yeah, so it's so many different things that people connect with us and ongoing, and so we really want to make sure that like in relationship to like the monthly meetings, we be able to hear what's going on the ground and different people's neighborhood, so we're able to try to start cross fertilizing and making sure that we can build like not just this abstract unity of people just signing on to different coalitions, but how we can start really getting to know each other and ensuring that we like this spread, across the country.
And we're going to be having, in the beginning of the year, we will be having a regular television show. And so if there's topics that you think or speakers you think we should have on those television shows, be sure and let us know. Or if you think you should be on the show, let us know.
And
Absolutely.
looks like we have a couple questions in the chat, so I'll start with June's question. Do you think people in this country are becoming more right wing? How do we build around that if that's the case?
I don't think people are necessarily becoming more right wing. I think that uh, people, we just need to do a hell of a lot better job organizing and getting to people in this country that are confused. I think people are just like really struggling for survival. I know a lot of the Trumpsters or whatever that I worked at the UAW, you know, even, thought, oh, Cheri, she's got those liberal politics or whatever. And then they found out that I'm not really left wing or right wing, that I'm on the bottom and I'm looking for unity to go after the folks on top. And, so they realized um, uh, that they benefited from having a relationship with me because I helped them get into some housing. And, over time, once people develop those real relationships, some of that backwardness goes away.
As well as like, when you like Sherry said, like they'll put all your eggs in one basket. When people have been putting all their eggs in one basket over and over again and being let down constantly over and over, it's not so much that they're moving right wing. It's more that people are fed up of the same people promises, what I mean, and not fulfilling those promises. That's one of the main things that I see when I talk to people.
Got another question here. How come transplants grow deep roots and help to do the work here in Philly?
I would just say, step up. There's about 1,000 things that need to be done each and every day. And you don't have to take an oath to poverty and you don't have to cut off your arm to participate or whatever. There's so much. Like, there's so much to do every single day. Whether it's helping to, you got a couple extra hours and you want to help distribute food. And you know that when you distribute that food, people are going to connect with the Poor People's Army instead of the Salvation Army. That's a good thing. But there's a million other things like that. So you got a couple extra hours, make it happen. If you're in a different part of the country, figure out how to have a Zoom and we'll help you figure out how to set up something similar that fits your part of the country. Um, so that you can feel like you're doing your part in helping build this massive army in order for us to take these bad guys on.
Okay, another question here. Can you explain a little how we can organize and connect with all kinds of people on the basis of food and clothing and housing versus ideology? Why is the left getting this wrong?
Well, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but you notice I jumped in so Galen couldn't answer. Oh my God. What a shitty organizing job. But anyway, I'm just saying, I went to go vote. There was like nobody there. And usually, you know, wow, there wasn't, it was a ghost town. Anyway, so one is that, this gets into some organizing stuff. I think that we got to get back to meeting people face to face, establishing those relationships, getting the hell off of Zoom. Uh, uh, you know, a mother who is struggling to feed her kids is more interested in feeding her kids, and then maybe she'll listen to some of your ideas later. But you certainly have more credibility with me if you can help me figure out where I'm going to sleep tonight or how I can eat. Or if I'm working at my union job and I can't pay the rent this month, and you can help me navigate paying the extra amount of money and not being ashamed around my fellow workers or whatever. Um, you know, I think a lot of people on the left have like written that part off as like some kind of social servicey thing. Ah, that's like you got to help feed, clothe, and house your troops in order to keep your army alive. And so yeah, so I would throw that piece in there, but not from a charity perspective, from a real mutual aid perspective, where if you get something from us, you better give something back and help us build this thing. Hello.
You like to add anything, Galen, or go to the next question?
You can go to the next question.
All right, we got one here from social media. For people who don't identify as, quote, poor, why should they be involved with the Poor People's Army?
Go ahead, Galen. I've dominated this conversation.
Well, one of the things that, different people have been saying when we've been strategically trying to figure out how we're going to like organize some of the people who aren't quite, what I mean, at the bottom right now. And that's by looking at where things are heading to and where things are going forward to. And when we think about like the whole, technology, what I mean, and we think about like this whole new class of people, that we've been talking about um, AI, what I mean, are eliminating jobs all day, every day. And so people that aren't currently, what I mean, feeling the effects of like having to struggle with, paying their electric bill or putting gas or food or don't have to have these decisions to make right now. But you see all these major corporations all around the country have been laying off 500 workers here, 1,000 workers there, 5,000 workers there. What I mean? Different tools, different technologies are being coming up with every day. What I mean? To be able to try to eliminate, jobs, and these jobs aren't coming back. And that's one of the things that, we really try to talk about, what I mean, some of these strategic conversations with different people from different parts of the world, because, some people are, like Cheri said, it's different unions, whether it's something like UPS, having problems in their unions, to like what's happening with the dock workers, I mean, to happen to the healthcare workers, the nurses, even to what's happening to the actors and um, the writers and stuff like that. We're just seeing constant replacement that people are like fighting to hold on for right now. But that's just only going to be a matter of time. So we're not trying to just look at where people are directly right now. We want to catch people before they hit the bottom. So we're just trying to look into the future and, and try to organize or where people are going to be, not where people are at just right now or where people's been. We're truly trying to organize where people are going to be.
Thanks, Galen. And everybody, if you want to ask questions, please put them in the chat. I'm going to keep going here. What is the vision for revolutionary change? Is it done locally or nationally? Is it taking over the existing government or starting something new?
Again, I think that we can't create something under a utopia under capitalism. So it definitely is a system change thing. But we're a little different than I would say some elements of the left where um anyway, so we have to be visionaries and we have to keep people alive while we're building towards a society that provides for everybody. Um, and we have to be about, living out our living out and modeling our vision for what that new world looks like. And when Galen was talking about this new class, um, I think it's folks that are no longer um, uh, exploitable and expendable and are being thrown out of the economy. And are never believed that they would, go from a two-car garage or be, making lots of money to go to no money. And we have to figure out how to link folks here in Kensington with folks that are a part of this new growing class of people. Because this isn't about like who's got the best seat on the Titanic. The Titanic is going down, and we have to build that new society and get on that raft and get the hell off that Titanic.
Got a comment here from Andy. We see a lot of cutting of funds and access. We think a physically printed press will be necessary to build effective resistance. Need not be big or sponsored. Files can be sent around and the customized locally. Heard.
Absolutely. If you see any serious revolutionary organization or activity that's happening out here in the world, they're becoming extinct on the internet. So we do have to go back to that hardcore door-to-door, newspaper in neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. I know, Andy, that you have an amazing paper, and you should put a link on how people can link up with that in the chat, and how they can contribute to it and help that grow. But we need things like this all over the entire country. And on that note, everybody should also buy our book that we just put together, which is a how-to manual on how to end homelessness in this country by taking over abandoned government-owned properties. It's called Takeover. Oh, you don't need one yet? Well, you can buy a Solidarity copy for 12 of your closest friends.
And the link for that's in the chat. Another question from Joanna. Do you think things are getting worse in Philadelphia since you started organizing here? What's worse and what has gotten better?
Honestly, every day that I wake up in Kensington, I wonder how much time some people have left. Things I've never seen things so horrible. I know that might come as a surprise to some people that we have an African American woman mayor. But the sweeps here are just like, now we're back to, the Wild Wild West. Lock them up. Just take anybody walking down the street, getting off the L, and let's do it under the guise that everybody's getting high. And that's a pretty scary time to live in. And the other day I just saw this officer, for entertainment, turning on and off the lights on this homeless person that was trying to just like be outside. I mean, just horrible things that are happening everywhere.
Moving along here, a question from Callie. I often see people saying that our new revolution / dismantling will require intense thinking outside the box. What do you think that would entail, or is that something that will be covered in future Zooms and workshops? I'm going to throw that one to Galen.
Oh no, don't throw that one to me because I don't want to be recorded saying some of those things. You know what I mean?
Some of the things that are being said might or might not be true. Okay, now you can speak.
No, but definitely, it's people got to start figuring out how they're going to walk down this ugly road. You know what I mean? People can't think that this revolution is going to be comfortable. It's not going to be a situation, and and it's not something that everyone has to do, but it's something everyone has to participate in. One way or the other, whether you're in the middle, on the other side, not doing anything or whatever, you're participating, whether you know it or not. And so we're just trying to get people to be on the right side of history, you know what I mean, and move forward in relationship to, like, you know, as things get rougher, you know what I mean, and tougher, we're going to figure out how to work together more and more. It's not going to be where some people are going to write some nice laws. You know what I mean? People are going to be fighting in the courts for us, and they're just going to be like, yeah, you're right. Here's these trillions of dollars. We're giving it back to the majority of the people. It's not going to happen that way. And so the work that's going to be having to be done is us to figure out how not to keep making each other our enemies. And that's a really big, you know what I mean, task. It's so many different things that people can come up to figure out how to divide us. You know what I mean? And it's some very simple things that unite us all. And people want to be about the complication of, like, of talking about all the different things that divide us, you know what I mean, that keep us moving in directions that doesn't allow us to find real true unity based on all of us being human beings and relating to each other on an equality level, not, like an equality level where we're ensuring that everyone, you know what I mean, some basic stuff, you know what I mean, have some rights, you know what I mean, to be able to not just barely survive or get beat down, you know what I mean, till you die, but be able to, like, really prosper in a land that has so much, you know what I mean, so many riches. So it has a lot to do with us really trying to not beat each other down all the time. You know what I mean? Like, there's some smart people in the room. Like, the way I talk is not quite, you know what I mean, articulated and say all the school words that people have been to college and got their master degrees and stuff like that, because I just look at things on some very simple moral level of, like, is this right? Is it okay for someone to sleep out in the streets, and they got all these crazy condos, all these abandoned buildings? Is it okay for them to monopolize, to give away food? You know what I mean? That isn't really that decent and healthy. You know what I mean? For the people that are in desperate need of some good, decent, nutritious meals. And so all those different things is just to say that, like, the work is trying to really get to know each other, and at the same time, not beat each other down. Let's lift each other up, and let's really build this movement.
And I just want to say that, the older I get, the more I understand that we have to have as many study circles as possible. That we can't just, like, proclaim that we know it all by just getting together. Because there's many, uh we just gotta strive to understand what's happening in this world, um, what the ruling class wants us to focus on as opposed to what we really should be focusing on. There's so much distractions. Um, and we've gotta, not do what the left always falls into, which is, you know, talking the talk but never walking the walk. And we have to walk the walk and, go down this ugly road, try to figure out how to be pioneers. um we're going to continue to make mistakes along the way, uh but as long as we can hold on to the fact that we're not going to let people divide us on the very essential important things in life, and that's that we all matter and there's enough to go around. And as long as we continue to organize around the politics of love and not scarcity, we're going to be all right. But once we get away from this authentic, real stuff and just start having some mental masturbation, and then we're not going to see the change that we want to see happen in this world. And yeah, so we have to take on our historical duty. Damn. Couldn't we have been born at a easier time?
For sure. Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna ask combine a couple questions here. One is, what is this new class the Poor People's Army always talks about? And the other, what do you mean that capitalism is ending itself?
ooh, come to our study circles. We definitely talk about this a lot. all the time. And the new class of people is, you know, it's kind of like something that we see all day, what I mean, here in Kensington, because Kensington used to be the mecca around the textile industry here in the United States. So it was like jobs everywhere, constantly. You could, decide to quit your job at 8 o'clock in the morning and have another job by 12 o'clock noon. That's not happening no more. You know what I mean? All the different people that lived in this community, that worked at all these factories, and I'm talking late 70s, early 80s. So when we're talking about that, we're talking, close to 40 years ago. It created a new group of people, I mean, that lived in Kensington, by them just taking the jobs and going south, and then south of the border. It created a new group. And we just look at Kensington of this model that's kind of like a micro of the macro, you know, and what would happen with all these jobs, what I mean, leaving Kensington, it left a community that didn't have a way to be able to like just easily go get a job and provide for themselves and their family. And like, it went from, being the mecca around the textile industry to being, their number one source of income being welfare, and then drugs. And so those people wasn't just popped there by accident, what I mean, or anything like that. It was created, what I mean, by the system. And so now, even moving, 40 years later, what I mean, with technology has gone to this advancement in that it's a growing number of jobs that are being replaced, and they're never coming back. I remember when my mom graduated from high school, she became an operator, what I mean, just boom, and was able to just be an operator in Virginia, doing, like just doing stuff. But now those jobs and stuff like that, they don't exist anymore. What I mean? Working at the local grocery stores and stuff like that, those jobs with the self-checkout, these jobs are being eliminated. And it's not just those jobs that we're talking about. We're talking about jobs where you're seeing, anything from a brain surgeon, what I mean, to lawyers, what I mean, to accountants, to so many, what I mean, jobs that are being eliminated with AI. And so that's the new class of people that we're talking about, jobs that are being eliminated and never ever coming back. And where are these people going to work at? Cheri, part two.
And how does the new class relate to capitalism ending itself?
Uh, because we have to do, it's not something about like us theorizing it. Is capitalism going to end or is it not going to end? It's killing itself. It is burying itself. So it's not going to be here. So with electronics and technology and AI that Galen was talking about, either we take control, or all of that in the billionaires are going to take control of what kind of society and what kind of world we have. And is it going to be based on human needs, or is it going to be, um, corporate greed and even scarier thing? I mean, I don't know, that's pretty scary. But anyway, where I remember seeing the panic or hearing the panic of my grandson, my oldest grandson's mother, Frankie, when she went on strike with the writers in Hollywood, because that was just a thing that they thought they would have forever, is writing scripts and movies. And then when it became that AI was going to write everything, here they are in these really expensive homes and, living the best life. And now they were talking about like being permanently, replaced by AI. That's the kind of world, not just country, that we're living in. And either we've got to take control and get organized, or we're not going to have a planet left. We're not going to have a society that truly takes care of everybody.
We got about 5 minutes left, so if anyone has any other questions, put them in the chat.
and
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 go ahead.
and just on what Cheri was saying, you know, like I said, I'm no brainiac, you know what I mean? But if you're not able to go to work, you know what I mean, and able to make any type of money or anything like that to buy goods and stuff like that that you need, who are these corporations and these big large companies? Who are they going to sell the goods to? If they got the technology to have everything automated, you know what I mean, to the max, how are we going to be able to purchase these goods? And so, I just think that like it's the time, you know what I mean, for us to start putting our heads together, and not for some Democratic Party dude to be able to manipulate it and change it and switch it up and figure out how to water it down to have us spinning in circles. But how do we start really connecting and talking the business of the people, what the individual people want, and how we're going to make that happen? And I'll just say that before we leave.
Another question from Max and Luna. How do we create defense networks to combat these sweeps? Is that a possibility?
Well, I mean, we can either create defense things to avoid to deal with the sweeps, or if we proceed from the fact that we have abundance, let's just house everybody.
Yeah,
And that's what we would like to see. Let's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's end homelessness. If it's true that there's more abandoned houses in every part of the country, let's just get organized and end homelessness. I'd prefer to do that. Back in my early days, it was more into like the defense thing. Now I'm just like, I'm saying some of this thing is true and some is not if the police are on here. But I would say just take a house, several of them, and all empty houses. House everybody.
yeah, yeah. Make that be the plan. Can't sweep. That's not what's not out there.
That's right.
I'm going to try to sneak one more question in here from Facebook. What role have identity politics played in cementing divisions on the bottom? How do you make unity when people really do have different lived experiences?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Um, I, it's difficult. You know what I mean? That they make it seem it's kind of very simple. You know what I mean? Because people will put, you know what I mean, stuff that's like, not quite tangible. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, in relationship to your survival, and have that be the discussion all day long. You know what I mean? What's not tangible, but stuff that is concrete, and we can move forward to keep people alive. You know what I mean? Those discussions always tend to get on the back burner. And I think when one of the ways, like Cheri said, doesn't really matter whether they was Trumpers or not. You know what I mean? People connect when you figure out what you had in common and how you work towards those things. And like, you can laugh and joke about, what you don't have in common. You know what I mean? When we make sure some of the basic things that you've been struggling around, those get resolved. And so, yeah, you can make jokes about Obama with a Trumper, you know what I mean? And a Trumper making jokes about Obama, you know what I mean? When they both have housing and they have a good way to provide for their family and stuff like that, it's not go to war. But if I'm struggling to pay my credit card bill, I'm starting to put gas, you know what I mean, to make it through the week. We don't have groceries at the end. I don't want to hear your, Obama politics and shit. And the other person on the other side, I don't want to hear your Trump, you know what I mean, politics. But when we figure out how we look at each other as just human beings needing some basic necessities to be able to cope and maintain, you know what I mean, that's the way that you get around all those different identities. Because, with me, I ain't gonna hold you. You know, I have some Trump friends that I grew up with. You know what I mean? But that don't change our relationship because we have been in a good relationship all our lives, and it's based on who we are, not based on our ideology. You know, and I think that's where the connections got to start becoming based on who we all are, not based on how we think we all should be. Nick, close it out. Matt, one of y'all say something, or you want Sherry to close it out because Nick always one more thing.
We love you all. We hope you sign up. We hope you get involved. Thank you for being here. You guys are amazing. This is the beginning.
December the 6th, December the 6th, we have our
December
membership
6th.
meeting. Put that back in there, Nick, the December the 6th, our membership meeting, you know, where people can join in. And that's a way that like we could really start staying connected and try to figure out how we can get to where you are or you can get to where we are.
Thanks for coming, y'all. Stay connected, like Galen said. See the link in the chat.
Salute, everybody.